I think it's time to go take the Slayer oath, don't you? Hello there, welcome back to the channel. It's Richie here from Dowie After Dark. Today I am going to be kneeling at the altar of Grimnir and I am going to be taking the oath and becoming a Slayer. This video is going to be on how to win with the Slayer host. I'm just going to drop this out there right now. This is not the strongest army in the game. Obviously, Setcher's Fury that dropped from Games Workshop a few weeks ago, everybody has had time to read this book and come up with your own ideas. Yes, it is a little bit sparse on the ground, and yes, we could have wanted a lot more stuff in that book. And we're all disappointed that there are no pirate slayers. We did get the Brotherhood of Grimnir, but unfortunately it's locked behind a unit and is weirdly a champion. You can definitely make that unit work, but we're probably not going to be talking about those today. I am going to be talking about the most competitive way to run the slayers. For those of you out there from the Engineers Guild that are grumbling that I shouldn't be making competitive lists with these are obviously just a thematic army that's used for fun games at home. Yes, it is. It is a thematic army. It is made for fun. But you can have a lot of fun while trying to beat all of your friends. And let's face it, nobody wants to lose. So if you're meeting up with your friend on a Friday night or you're going to some local RTTs or tournaments, so hopefully with the combos that I talk about today, you'll at least be able to win a couple of games and also show those vampire players who's boss. So funnily enough, using the right comps, you can actually build armies that are very good into undead. Before we get any further into this video, I have a slight grudging. Unfortunately, this army is not very good into evasion armies. So those other dwarven holds with gyrocopters, Nuln armies, and also Cathay that can just sit back and shoot you. Unfortunately, this army isn't very good into them. Yes, we have the Wards of Grimnir, which is a point per model, which is a 6-up ward, but that's a little bit rubbish. I mean, you can put the Banner of Grungni on a unit for that 5-up ward to get them across the board, and that is something I'll talk about later. But if armies are just going to run away from you, then unfortunately, all you can do is kind of stand on objectives and hopefully not die. So if they want to play a boring game, you can play a boring game as well. But we're not going to talk about that. But if you are playing someone who wants to play a game with you and is going to smash into you, then we can build something that plays into that. The channel has just had an amazing opportunity. We have had a collab with the brilliant Electric Witch Clothing. If you want some awesome Warhammer inspired metal looking merch, then please head over to Electric Witch Clothing. We have just had the Dowie After Dark range dropped. This is inspired on the Slayers, and yes, I will be wearing this top every single time I play with the Slayers going forward. If you wanted to support the channel, please grab one of these and check out all of the other designs they do. This is an awesome clothing brand, and the fact it's just Warhammer inspired and also retro Warhammer inspired as well just fills me with the warm and fuzzies. Please go check them out. There will be a link down below. Any of the Dowie After Dark merch that you buy will also be helping the channel out, so I would be eternally grateful. Go check them out. I did want to get this video out a little bit earlier, but unfortunately I have been dealing with Papa Nurgle's blessing. He has come from the garden and just given me all kind of contagion. So unfortunately I haven't been very well the last couple of weeks, but we're on the right track now. And I've been trying to get in as many practice games as I can with the ultimate delirium that's been going on in my mind. But I think I've managed to settle on a couple of different list archetypes that work really well for the Slayers. With this being said, there is a couple of things that we need to take advantage of with the Slayer cults. Now, when you initially look at the book, it is very, very sparse. Not very, very good rules and not much stuff that we can take advantage of. But if we do delve a little bit deeper, there is a few things that we can see. Now, if we jump into the army composition, there is a couple of really interesting points. So the 20% on core means that we can take as little Slayers as we want or take as many. So I'm going to be talking through two lists today. One of them uses the minimum that it possibly can, and then one uses the maximum. For every unit of Slayers you take, you get 0 to 2 Dragon Slayers, and then you get a Demon Slayer per 1,000 points. Now, the list I'm going to be talking about today, I'm not going to be using Ungrim, because if I was using Ungrim, I would probably just use the Royal Clans list. So this is all about the Slayer cults, baby. And while using the Slayer cults, I think we should just kit out our Demon Slayers and Dragon Slayers so that they can lead the armies. So firstly, I thought I would talk about the Doomseeker spam list. Now, this list is completely comp dependent. I know at the events I'm going to, unfortunately, it's limited to 3. But if you are playing Match Guide, Combined Arms, and Grand Melee, you're going to be able to take lots and lots of Doomseekers. What I mean by this is the Slayers that you take unlock 0 to 2 Dragon Slayers, And then for every Slayer character that you have, you unlock 4 Doomseekers. So say if you take 4 Dragon Slayers and 1 Demon Slayer, suddenly you can take 20 Doomseekers. This list is absolutely hilarious and it's really fun to play. It's quite techie though, but by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have an understanding on how it works. Now, with this list, you cannot play it with rule of 3, which is really annoying. So I'm not going to be saving any of this tech for WTC because unfortunately that has rule of 3. So I'm not going to be able to use this outside of singles. So I think everybody should have access to this. Unfortunately, the downsides with this list are the fact that if the opponent doesn't engage with you, they are probably going to win a massive win, as you're just going to be running around the board with a load of Doomseekers and hoping they die. But the fact you've got so many Doomseekers, you can spread out and try and catch things, so they're not going to be able to run away for too long. You can hem them in corners and just do lots and lots of damage to them. The whole point of this list is to play into Death Stars or undead factions. Now, having so many Doomseekers is a little bit crazy. So you're going to be having almost minimum points in core and then just flooding the board with characters and Doomseekers. Now, the questions you're asking yourself are, how are we going to get there? How are we going to be able to do much damage? And how does this list even work? Now, we're going to be abusing some of the rules before I jump into the actual list itself. We're going to be using the From the Wild rule for one of the units of Slayers that's coming in. This is really good for domination or to come in and try to just hold a baggage train or potentially destroy somebody's baggage train at the end of the game. Now, I really like stuff that can ambush. You're probably not going to use these to try and score objective points, because you're just going to want to try and table the enemy and also kill all of your Doomseekers at the same time. So these guys are literally just going to be there to try and get you points at the end on domination, or just to save points at the end of the game. The Look Snorri Trolls to be able to get the pre-game move is pretty handy. I quite like putting a Stroller's Rune on the bigger unit, so that then suddenly you get basically 2 Vanguards, which is really nice. And then your Doomseekers will be running up the sides of the unit, or potentially placed in the unit if you want to be tricksy. So now I'm going to talk through the list and then tell you how it plays. In the characters, we have a Dragon Slayer with BSB hand weapon, Master Rune of Stromny Redbeard. Yes, you heard me right, it's not Grungni in this list, and then the Rune of Dishonored. So if you kill this guy, suddenly he doesn't give out any points, which is actually pretty lovely, really. So after the BSB, we have 3 more Dragon Slayers, with one of them having the Rune of Speed and all of them having hand weapons. Remember, these guys always wound on 4s, and they also have Gromril weapons and also killing blows, so they're no slouch even without a great weapon. And then a Demon Slayer with hand weapon just to be the general. Now, the point with these is to keep these as really cheap as possible. These are basically attacks to be able to bring all of the Doomseekers. The list is based around the Stromny Redbeard and also the Doomseekers. So these guys are just kind of like defense for your scoring units. And then once we go into the core units, we have 5 Slayers that are going to be ambushing and also with skirmish. Like I said before, these guys are just going to be popping out for domination and also just keeping that 65 points. Or if you need them to pop out and try and kill a war machine, then they can do that as well. But they are basically just attacks to be able to bring the heroes that then lets you bring the Doomseekers. Then we have a block of 25 Slayers with a Standard Bearer and a Stroller's Rune and a Musician. Now, the main point of this is it's going to be running around in marching column with the heroes inside it, following up the Doomseekers. Now, this is quite important to be able to keep it in marching column to move as quickly as you possibly can, surrounded by all of the Doomseekers, so you can keep up with them once they've done their charges. Now, then you have 18 Doomseekers, but 2 of them are upgraded to have magical weapons. Now, this is to be able to deal with those ethereal units like Hex Wraiths, or potentially those lone banshees that are kicking around, because ethereal just needs to die. One of them was upgraded to have the Scout, Master Rune of Swiftness, and the Rune of Cleaving. The reason for the Rune of Cleaving is that when you upgrade a weapon that's Gromril, unfortunately you lose any AP on that. So the Rune of Cleaving creates it a magical weapon and also keeping the AP. I've also upgraded another one to have the Rune of Cleaving, thus having 2 with magical attacks at AP 1, and then the first one being at initiative 10 as well. So if you are charged by, say, a big unit of Hex Wraiths, you are going to be able to hit them first and potentially do a lot of damage to them, which is really good because vampires are pretty strong at the moment. And then in the rest slot, we have a Dwarf Cart. Now, the Dwarf Cart is actually quite necessary in this list because you need to move as quickly as possible. Remember, all of the Doomseekers need to die. So what you're going to be doing is filling up your unit with all of those heroes with the banner right at the center to be able to give out that aura bonus of +1 combat res. You're then going to create a bubble of crazed Doomseekers around that unit and charge towards the enemy. So at this point, you do need to be a little bit clever. When you're coming up against those Graveguard or those really big blocks of other infantry, or potentially even dragons, you need to bait them in. By baiting them in, you're going to have to run one sacrificial Doomseeker in front of the rest of your army. That's quite in front of all of the other ones. This one I quite like to have as the scout Doomseeker if you're playing into combat armies. So you scout him a little bit further up than the rest of your army, and then he is there to be bait. So you get him in charge range of the unit you want to go into. Then you have another Doomseeker that's run up to be 2 or 3 inches behind him. So suddenly, when the big block of Graveguard or a dragon or anything like this has gone into him, killed the first one, and then overrun into your second Doomseeker, you then need to make sure that the rest of your Doomseekers are within charge range of that second Doomseeker. Here's the interesting bit. So if you can keep all of those Doomseekers over 3 inches away from the second Doomseeker, then charging in, you get all of the impact hits, and suddenly you have loads of Doomseekers fighting into that one unit that thought it was getting easy prey. Now, once all of these Doomseekers are in combat and they're all getting their impact hits, you then march up in marching column behind them with the banner. Remember, the command range of a BSB is 12 inches. So as long as you can get all of those crazed Doomseekers within 12 inches of that banner, suddenly you are getting a lot of extra combat res. So just imagine, the Graveguard unit has killed your first Doomseeker, it's overrun into your second one. Now, if it's 10 wide, you've got space for 12 Doomseekers on that front rank. Obviously only 11 of them because one of them's been overrun into. But at this point, you would then try and charge the rest of the Doomseekers in. So you are starting that combat with 11 D3 plus 11 impact hits, then 22 D3 attacks at weapon skill 5 and strength 5, and they are all AP 1, which is pretty crazy actually. And then you obviously just move up the banners from your Redbeard, and you get plus 12 combat res. That is only if they all survive though, but it's quite hard to kill so many lone characters. Obviously this list is very, very comp dependent, but it's a very fun list. You can just completely drown your opponents and get so much combat res if you've got loads of Doomseekers in combat. It's a really, really fun one. It's quite difficult to use, but once you kind of get the knack with it, it is really, really fun. You can do so much areas and isle if you just want to plonk your big unit on an objective and then start running your Doomseekers over to another one. You can also take out the banner guy and run him up with the Doomseekers. Remember that this guy needs to die because he has Dishonored on. So if you need to get him into the thick of it near the end of the game, get him into the thick of it. Get him into a challenge where you know he'll die, and so he just doesn't give out those points at the end of the game. This is a really, really fun list. I've really been enjoying this one, and it's definitely probably one of the lists that vampires, I think, will learn to fear if you're playing in comps that allow you to use the match play guide. It's a super fun one. It's just a shame that there isn't a rule in the Slayer cults where you could make the Doomseekers not give away their points if they lived. Then this would be the strongest list that the dwarves could field in this current meta. But unfortunately, if people leave you alone and you just don't have enough to score really, so you just end up getting killed. But if you want an army that is just running across the board and being mad, naked little ginger men, then this is definitely the army that you should try. It's a really fun one, and I've been having a great time using it, and I hope you all do as well. So for the next list idea, we are going to be making a much more survivable army that's going to be there for the strategic locations battles. This one is all about not trying to die when you are playing against those shooting armies. This one, unfortunately, is a little bit more of a financial investment because you're going to have to buy lots and lots of Slayers. I personally been painting up an absolute buttload of Slayers, and hopefully those people out there who've been doing it as well have been enjoying them. Now, this list is a little bit bare bones, but it is a hilarious one. So the main point of this list that I'm going to be talking about now is taking advantage of a couple of different rules that the Slayers have. This army that I'm going to be talking about now is all about abusing the Look Stormy Trolls rules, so you can get that pre-game move, where you could potentially do a reform if you needed to move into marching column, or you could potentially just move up the board a little bit before you start running onto those objectives. And then Death Blow. Now, Death Blow is a really fun one if you are playing against opponents who are running combat armies, because they're going to run into you, try to do as much damage to you as possible, and then you're going to be able to hit them back on a 4-up, because it correlates with the Slayer rule, so you always wound on a 4. Unless you're a higher strength, obviously, but it's only strength 3 death blow, so you're probably always going to be on 4s. And this is AP 1, which is actually just kind of hilarious. But the main point of this list is to just try not to die. This is with maximum blocks of Slayers, with the Rune of Grungni in there as well, so you can give your main block a 5-up ward from everything, and give other units a 6-up ward from shooting. Now, this one is just all about not dying. So this is probably something I would suggest to do for maybe like a teams list, or if you know you're going to be playing against a really annoying army and it's just going to try and shoot you, Then you try and plonk these big units in cover, so they're -1 or potentially -2 to hit. And then with a 5-up ward or a 6-up ward, it's probably going to be quite hard to get through them. Remember, they are T4, and then putting a ward on there as well really does shut down a lot of damage. So let's jump straight into the list. So we have a Dragon Slayer BSB with the Master Rune of Grungni. And then for the general, we have a Demon Slayer with a hand weapon, great weapon, upgraded to take Scout. He is the general, and then Rune of Parrying, Rune of Striking, Rune of Warding, Rune of Grit, and Rune of Wrath. Now, basically, the reason I've taken these is the Rune of Parrying is -1 to hit. The Rune of Striking is +1 weapon skill, so probably most things are going to be hitting on 5s. He then has the Rune of Warding, which is a once per game 2-up ward, so just in case anyone sneaks anything through. And then the Rune of Grit is +1 toughness, so he is toughness 6. And then the Rune of Wrath, he gets an extra attack. This guy is very, very scary. Remember, he has quite a few attacks and also Killing Blow. These attacks are also magical as well, so if anything ethereal pops out at you, then yes, this guy can really do some damage. The reason I've upgraded him to have Scout, because he could be a nuisance if he needs to be a nuisance. If your opponent is only running 1 cannon, for instance, you can park this guy behind, say, a hill or behind some terrain, pop out the next turn. If they're only shooting with 1 cannon, he takes the cannonball, saves it on a 2-up, and then he charges into that cannon the next turn. Remember, you can't charge if you scout, which is a little bit annoying, but it's all about working out those plays beforehand. And then into the main meat and potatoes of the list, which is 3 units of 41 Slayers, all of them with 1 Giant Slayer in each, just to be able to take those challenges if a pesky dragon comes in and you don't want to lose too many Slayers at that point in time. One of the best things about the Slayers is the fact that these guys are completely unbreakable. So once they are out in the wild, you don't have to worry about them breaking. You don't have to worry about them running away. They're only ever going to be giving ground. One of the interesting things you can do with these, if you are playing into an army that's got a little bit of shooting, you can start these in marching column, march up the board with the cart in range, and there is a cart in this list as well. And then once you've taken a couple of pepperings for some shooting, you are also no longer in marching column. And you could also use this for smaller units as well. So don't think it's just locked to this size unit. You can use this for any size of your Slayers. It's a nice fun tactic that can really catch some people out. So you just start with 1 extra rank, for instance, in marching column, or just a couple of extra models, and just a couple of extra models, and then suddenly you lose them, and now you can charge the next turn. This is a really fun little tactic because you run up onto that objective, something comes opposite you, and suddenly you can charge them. So that's actually quite good. And where do Slayers want to be? They want to be dying in combat, not to shooting. And most things, when they start to kill you, that death blow comes back and really hurts them. Toughness 6, who cares? You wound on 4s and it's AP 1. So if you've got Chaos that are throwing spawns at you, those death blows can really, really hurt them. I've personally had Chaos Dragons that have run into the unit. So 2 Chaos Dragons hitting 1 unit of Slayers and being dropped down to 1 wound each after 1 round of combat, which was glorious. I mean, that day Grimnir was smiling on me. So these things can definitely happen. Now, are these lists going to win tournaments? I don't think so, unless you have a glorious run where you only play certain armies. But are you going to have some of the most fun you've ever had playing Warhammer playing these? Definitely. Just being able to not actually care if opponents charge into you because of death blow is amazing. And also just with the Doomseekers, you don't care if they die, you just want to try and stack up that combat res as much as you possibly can. Yes, this Arcane Journal was written to be a bit of a funsy army, but you can still definitely slay some opponents in the meantime. I hope everyone's been really enjoying playing their games with Slayer Cult. Hopefully you try one of these armies and just have fun with it. The second army that I've talked about is a bit of a points denial list when you're playing against shooting, so it's probably one of the ones that works kind of best into Cathay. I'm not going to say you're going to win against Cathay, but you will lose less. Now, the Doomseeker one, that one has definite legs to be a very strong counter into any combat army, and especially into vampires and Tomb Kings. So if one of your friends has been running one of those armies and they have been smashing you week after week with your Noble Dowie, then throw 18 Doomseekers at them with the banner of Somni Redbeard, and you will be able to ruin their day. And then potentially rein it back and only take 12 Doomseekers. But it's a really fun one to have a play around with. Unfortunately, for those of you out there that are stuck, unfortunately for everybody out there who is stuck to the Compa rule of 3, I am still working on those lists because I need to make one for myself for the WTC, but these are ones I've been having a blast with. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. There will be a lot more content coming soon. Now I'm feeling slightly better and we've managed to get the team organized for the WTC for 2026. My time is hopefully opening back up a little bit outside of practice games and getting the new team up to speed on everything. So thank you all for watching. Thank you so much to your channel members. I couldn't do this without you. And yes, For Carrot Kadrin, it is our time to march out of our holds and reclaim the old world in the name of Grimnir. So everybody out there, let me know how you're getting on with your Slayers and if you've been enjoying them. And if you want to join the Discord, please join along so you can tell us how you've been getting on. The link to the Dowie After Dark Discord is in the description down below. And also the new Dowie After Dark Slayer merch is going to be a pinned comment in the comments down below. Thank you so much, everyone. I will catch you on the next video. Rock and stone!